Thank you for helping us start on time. As usual, it's great when we get started on time. This is a Madras Week special edition of the Bliss Catchers. So please do note that when you're tweeting, you are free to tweet from where you are, send pictures, talk about the session as it's happening, and please tweet to @AVIS Viswanathan, you know my spelling. And please tweet to @Odyssey post. And the hashtags are Bliss Catchers and Madras Day. So welcome again. We have today two very, very powerful guests. Powerful in the sense of their stories, iconic in what they've done and they continue to do. And before I introduce them to you and invite them to join me here, I'm actually going to spend a couple of minutes walking some of our new guests through why we do Bliss Catchers. And that's to give everybody a uniform sense of how the rest of the evening will go through. So the Bliss Catchers series is really inspired by Joseph Campbell's philosophy of follow your bliss. And I'm actually going to tell you a little story that happened to us last week to kind of bring it to the focus of following your bliss. So people ask me often, you know, is this all that you do? Which is curate events and write books and stuff like that. And so I clarify that Vani, my wife, and I actually run a workplace happiness firm. That's our core area of work. And one of the reasons that we got on this journey is because that business went into a huge crisis and is still struggling to come out of it. So in that time I wrote my book, and a reader of my book, Fall Like a Rose Petal there, that's my book. A reader of my book wrote to me from Bir in Himachal Pradesh, and that's probably the last place I would expect to find a reader. And he said somebody had gifted him my book, and in his mail, he actually talked about his story. And his name is Sunil Arora. And for 28 years, he was born and raised in a border village bordering with Pakistan in Punjab, a place called Khem Karan. And Sunil worked for 28 years in a bank, struggled with 2 businesses and failed, and finally realized at the age of 52 that if he cannot fulfill his life dream of traveling and writing about his travel, he felt that he'd probably die a very sad man. So he quit his job with the bank and on a lark started traveling. He says when he started traveling and blogging, he didn't even know the English that he knows now. But he felt that he had to do something in the zone of his inner joy. So he calls his blog Joy Club, sunil.wordpress.com. And I found that story very powerful, and he said, I read your book and I could connect with every word that you're saying there, because we all get lost in our life, and then our own reflection about the life that we are leading leads us to the life that we want to lead. And so thank you very much for the book. And this is exactly what we discuss, what we converse about. This is what people come here to share about in the Bliss Catcher series. My favorite my favorite poet, Jalaluddin Rumi, has said, if you do work from your soul, then a river starts moving within you. A joy starts happening. And Joseph Campbell, basically picked up that same perspective and talked about follow your bliss and doors will open where you see only walls. So if we go back to Sunil Arora's story, 52 years it took him to decide what he wanted to do with his life. And we have 2 people here with me who didn't have to wait so long, right? So we have Niladri, the iconic, radio jockey, the voice of Chennai. Okay? And it's only apt that we have him here for a Madras Week special. And we have the most happening, young, talented, multifaceted Mati with us. Again, a very, very, very well-known person in Madras circles. So, welcome to both of you. And today's conversation is really going to be about their journeys. So it only makes it important for me to quickly walk you through their backgrounds as I invite them over here. So, somewhere in 1996, we set up our firm, the firm that went bankrupt. And when we set it up in a 2-bedroom apartment in Rajendran near Kalipa Hospital. And so it was like a home office arrangement. And my team of 3-4 people would come to work, and we would all sit at the dining table and eat together. And we had those days music has evolved a lot now, so I don't think we have stereo players at home anymore, but in those days we had a 2-in-1 stereo player at home. And my team was very, very fascinated with one voice of a certain Niladri Bose. So we kept trying, and we wanted to make our firm famous, So we wanted it to be known in the city. So my team, young people, all of them 20-something, they would all keep trying to get onto his show. And finally one day they cracked it. And they actually, Niladri actually spoke to some of my team members, and we kept playing back that recording for a long, long time in the office during lunch breaks. So that's how well known and so deep-rooted our connection is. Okay, Niladri, so thank you for being here. Niladri dropped out of engineering school. I think the wisest decision he made, because without that, I don't think the world would have ever heard his voice. And through an act of the universe, his sister gave him a lucky charm. I call it a lucky charm because locket seems like a very Bollywood Purana Kisa Pita word. So gave him a lucky charm which you will see him wear around his neck. And he says that until the age of 21, he really didn't have a voice. The voice that he has now, and which you're going to hear, and which you've been hearing all over the radio waves. And that transformed his life. Yes, he started his career working with Siddharth Kak and his team at Surabhi. You remember that old show, Surabhi?
Renuka Shahane.
And Renuka Shahane. Ramesh, you have to remember Renuka Shahane. Yeah, thank you for reminding us. Yes. She was such a pleasant presence on that show. And he also worked with a very famous wildlife photographer, right, who won an Emmy Award. I'm missing his name. Alphonse Roy, sorry. So Alphonse Roy. And then he went to Australia, to Melbourne, to pick up a degree in radio and media. And after that, he's not looked back. We're going to hear that story of how he got the most coveted job in Chennai, an air-conditioned room, and all the music that he loved to play free for himself at All India Radio, of all places. So he started with Rainbow FM, then he's worked with Times FM, he's worked with Radio Mirchi, he's worked with Hello FM and Chennai Live, and now he's with Red FM in Bangalore. So that's the only part which jars with the Madras Week celebration, but that's okay, Saath Khoon Maaf, because we have Niladri Bose with us. So thank you, Niladri. Can I please have you join us here? Please welcome. Thank you. So that was a quick overview of Niladri. So one of the things that Vani and I do is we work in organizations inspiring happiness, and we met this young man there, Mati, at a company that he was working with in Pondicherry at that time. And this is a company called Human Factors International. And we later started hearing his name at home because our son, who's now in the US, was a theater enthusiast. And Mati and he did a lot of work together at possibly Landing Stage and Masquerade, many of the theater companies that Mati was associated with. So Mati came into our lives in two ways. One as a client location and as a mentor for our son. And it's been wonderful knowing him. He's an automobile engineer. who said to himself that I probably don't want to be looking at the underbellies of cars, and I want to look at more aesthetic design from a human point of view, from a human interface point of view. And so he took up a master's in human factors and ergonomics. I still don't understand how it works. Okay, all I understand is that sometimes when a website or an online experience creates a wow, I know there is a human factors thought behind it. Have I got it right? From a customer experience point of view? So he's done that, and he's worked for the longest time with a firm which is called Human Factors International, which is their main work is to deal with online design experience and ergonomics. So he is got that experience, but his heart has all along been beating for entertainment, for the entertainment industry. He's done 3 films, and the 4th one is on its way: Mayakam Enna, Vandina, Savari, and Andhra Mess. I got it right. Absolutely. Okay, fantastic. So we have a movie star, and then he leads this amazing theatre company called Stray Factory. It's an entertainment hub, and they have a division called online division called Rascalas, where they produce a really cool, very in thing, something syncing with Bliss Catchers called The Black Sheep, right? It's the story of a Bliss Catcher, if I'm right. Yeah? Shyam Ranganathan's story is that of a Bliss Catcher. So that's Mathivanan and Rajendran. But I'm going to do a little twist here. And the twist is, Mathi, since you and I share something in common that you are not aware of, your passport, your visa to get from there to here is for you to answer this question for me. Okay? Allow me to finish it even if you know the answer, because I want the audience to, and the audience cannot answer this. This is not a quiz question for the audience. Okay? So listen to me very carefully. If you don't get this right, we have only half a show. Okay?
No pressure.
Okay. Set? Okay, here's the line. The line is, eyesight to आदमी 2 बार भागता है, ओलंपिक का रेस हो या पुलिस का केस हो. Where is this?
I'm not a big Hindi movies thing.
Right. It was there in today's paper. That's where I picked up the cue.
I feel like I'm on the spot now.
Pick one.
Just say it again. Say it again.
ऐसा तो आदमी 2 बार लाइफ में भागता है. Okay? ओलंपिक का रेस हो या पुलिस का केस हो. It's a man as tall as you who had his leg up against a wall in a movie that you watched 70 times, man.
Oh, Amar Akbar Anthony.
Yes, absolutely. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so there you are. Welcome on board. Okay. Sorry, I told you I'll spin a googly. Okay, that came to me at the last minute when I saw you here, and I remembered what I had read in the morning. So this was just a little bit of fun. So thank you, gentlemen, for joining me here. Let's get your mics ready. So the structure we will follow is we'll have like a roughly 40-minute conversation between the 3 of us. I'll be asking questions randomly to the guests, and we will also have a very interactive conversation with the audience after we finish the round of questioning with the guests. So are you all ready? Okay, all set? So tell me a little bit about, so we'll start with Niladri and then I'll come to you, Mathi. Tell me a little bit, Niladri, about your early days when you were doing engineering. And obviously, I think it's a no-brainer of thought that, you know, any good boy must go and do engineering, right? Anybody good in school must go to engineering. So you had taken that path. But how easy or how difficult was it to convince your folks back home when you decided to do this, you know, like this, what, sacrilege, man, to quit and come back from Bangalore to Chennai? So tell us a little bit about that time. Did you at that time know that you were going to get into radio and media, or was it just that I don't want engineering and I want to get out of all this?
Well, first of all, thank you, AVIS, for having me here. Thank you, Bani. Thank you all for coming to this gathering. I'm humbled, I'm honored. I'd really like to listen to AVIS all day because he's so inspiring, but thank you again for listening to us.
One second, just before you answer. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the voice of Chennai, okay? And this is This is Niladri Bose live unplugged for you. Okay? I don't think it's happened in a long time. Okay? Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Avis, now, I lost my dad when I was in the 10th standard, and his wish was me to be an engineer. My mom saved up a lot of money at that time. She was handling the entire house. She was running the factory, trying to pay my sister's fees, and she also managed to get some money for me to go to college. So I landed up in RV College of Engineering. My senior was Anil Kumble by 1 year, and he was in industrial production, and I was in chemical engineering. I don't know why, but I took chemical engineering, maybe thinking in the future I could make something for myself and be nice, high and happy, but that never happened. It all went, I felt like a Tare Zameen Par in class, you know. I mean, nothing was like, I mean, what Mati has done, I mean, he's just amazing. But when I went into class in engineering and all that was told to me, I always felt that, dude, I'm in the wrong place. I shouldn't be here. And I did this for about 3 years. And it wasn't easy, neither difficult for me to convince my folks because I didn't ask for their decision, to be very honest.
So how did you communicate to them?
I just dropped out. I just packed my bags and I said I'm taking a bus back and I know I'm going to get busted by my mom. And I landed up and she opened the door and she said, what are you doing here? And I said I left engineering. And she didn't speak to me for about a year. My sisters were very pissed off with me for what I had done because here was a lady who was without a husband, saving up, working hard in the factory, and I'm being this guy going to Bangalore, you know, growing my hair long at that time, and then deciding, you know what, I don't want to do engineering. But honestly, when I did leave engineering, I did not know what my path ahead was. But I knew that there was one thing right that I did, and it was quitting engineering, because that was a place I didn't deserve to be in. Somebody else should have been there who would have done justice, you know, to that course. So. Yeah, it wasn't, as you said, it wasn't easy or difficult. I just took that step because it is a calling inside you. When you know, this is it. I'm not going to do it, not another minute. And I just said yes, and I landed up at home. Got whacked by my mom with a jhadu.
It seriously happened.
Yes, it was not.
And how traumatic was it to be living at home with mom and not having normal conversations with her?
Oh well, you get called, I mean, rightly so, because you get called a vagabond, you get called a loser, you get called a person who's wasting parents' hard-earned money, and your uncles come down from West Bengal, Calcutta, and everywhere and tell you like how you made your mother slip in the puddle and all that stuff. So I had to take it, but I was also very clear that I'm going to do something by myself. And I was always, I think the failure is so important here. I mean, that failure, what happened was made me feel that I lost to myself because of all what was happening around me. And I was very hungry to achieve something. It could be even a successful chai shop. But I was just hungry that, okay, this is a failure, it's considered as a failure in everybody's eyes. Not exactly to me, because I thought it was a very good decision. Thinking back, I still feel it's a good decision. My wife says you should have finished that 1 year, you still would have had an engineering degree. But, you know, I was just not then. I think that failure was so important for me to actually bounce back, being hungry. And then after that, of course, it was, feeling the importance of what you really have. That made me like to live in the present.
That's fantastic. So what I'm picking up is that the decision to quit engineering was based out of an intense dislike for what you were doing.
Absolutely.
And was based on the fact that a sense of compassion that perhaps somebody else could benefit from it, right? Rare at that young age, that clarity of thought. And the turbulence that you had at home because of this, in our family situations, I think everyone, every uncle, every auntie gets invited, or they invite themselves into the party to give faltu advice, free advice. So you went through all that churn. But did you at that time, so there was this hunger that kuch karke dikhana hai, let's try and do something. But you had no clarity about what it was going to be.
No.
How did you keep yourself going when there is absolutely no clarity, but you are still walking? How did you know this was the right direction? Did any thoughts from that time, any memories?
To be very honest, there was this birthday party and I landed up there and I met a friend, and it all happened pretty much quickly. So I dropped out, I was at home for about a year and doing nothing, and sooner or later some friends told me, you've been cooped up in your house, why don't you come out with us and all that. So with a lot of permissions from Kolkata, from my mom, my sisters, they allowed me to go out. So when I went to this party, there was this girl who I had met, her name was Abita, and I'll never forget her for what she did. She said, you're not doing anything, would you like to be a television correspondent? And it all, sounded very new to me. So I said, how much money would I get? So she said 1,500 rupees. And you would get about 750 for your auto allowance. I said that's good enough for my go-flicking packet and whatever that I want to do. So I said, okay, let me take the job. And that's when I landed up and met Emmy Award-winning cinematographer Alphonse Roy and his National Award-winning wife Radha Narayanan. And Radha put me on immediately and said, why don't you start being this television correspondent? She told me this is how you look at a story, this is how you shoot it, this is how you edit it, this is what you do, you package it and you send it back to Bombay or Delhi. I think when I met this couple, I think they were sent to me from above, from the Almighty, because these were two humans who actually suddenly took me seriously. Because I think that was like, the bell in my head which said, this is where I want to be. This is where, what I want to do and, move forward with it. So I think, yeah, with Radha and Alphonse, the journey started, and I'm very grateful that it started early, and maybe another year of being at home, I don't know what I would have done. I might have really, hit, rock bottom, but they came at the right time, and with an opportunity where I felt like, yeah, this is my place, this is what I want to do. So that's where the camera work came in. That's where I started giving stories for Surabhi, the India Travel Show, and everything else, Heads and Tails and all that stuff. So that was the start of the journey, I would say.
Beautiful, beautiful. Look at the story. It's so interesting. So there is a hunger, there is failure as in a worldly sense written all over. There is no clarity on what he wants to do, and there is only a sense of direction, and then a door opens. And when he gets into that door, gets through that door, he actually feels he belongs there. And he can connect with it because there is dignity, there is opportunity, and there is perhaps a sense of joy, a sense of success, of fulfillment. And this is really how the follow your bliss philosophy unfolds in real life. We think it's just a metaphor, a nice thing to say, but I think this is a classic story of how it begins. We'll come back to Niladri's story and his big moment, which I'm sure all of those who are waiting to hear that about the voice. We'll come back to that and then we'll move onward, but let's move to young Mati there. Okay, Mati, you're a lot younger than me, so I keep referring to you as young.
No, I don't mind it at all.
You stay like that forever, okay? So, Mati, you are a person that grew up in Dubai, and you have, obviously you have Chennai, Tamil Nadu connections, and then you went to study automobile engineering. I still don't get how we can connect these three dots and find films anywhere then. How did this craze for films really happen?
I think largely, and I think in recent times I've been thinking about it a lot, reflecting about it. I think it's something to do with the fact that when you move to another country, so my parents, we were in Dubai at the time, and that's like 80s, right? So it's this sort of immigrant culture in a new place, and I think you're trying to hold on to whatever is somewhat something you can relate to, because everything feels alien in a strange sense, and of course this predates the internet and everything, so you're just going to look for stuff always that you want to associate closely with. So during that time, so my dad had this huge video cassette collection, had an audio cassette collection. My parents also very kind, they got me an Atari when it came out. So, this whole fascination for all these like things that I never, like I couldn't like understand it, like this is like weird graphics and cartoons, and it just blew my mind. And I think that's where it started. And
how old were you then?
I would say as young as 2, 3, like I remember,
wow.
yeah,
Okay.
crazy about like cartoons. Of course, it wasn't film per se, but just cartoons I used to consume like crazy. Also, the cartoons then were, I think it was going through a boom. There were a lot of creative shows. There were these shows called Dino Riders, Dino Saucers, like dinosaurs becoming like vigilantes, just very weird thinking. So your brain explodes. So that was fun. And I still remember, so there was this one big theatre there at the time called Al-Nasser Cinema, and I remember when my dad...
This is in Dubai.
In Dubai, yeah. So he took us to this show, it was Cliffhanger and Speed, and of course, mind equal to blown again, because you're like, how is this screen so big and why do they have all of this? So of course, it's very fascinating looking at all of that. That took, I think, a major part of inspiration was there, followed by which, I think, after coming back here, I was about 13 at the time, this sudden release of all of that and trying to place all of those creative things that I consumed in a local environment. I think that is how I've rationalized kind of in a way that why like this constant search for something has been there.
So did the craze for films kind of when you came back to India in Chennai and you started watching films locally, was there any pivotal moment when you thought, hey, I need to be on that big screen, or hey, I need to be making a film? Is there an incident, or did it grow on you slowly?
I think it probably grew on me slowly because still, I mean, film, for me, personally, film is like an extension of all the creative pursuits. So just the idea of being on stage or doing all of that, I remember, I think, yes. So when I was really young, I used to just perform to myself for a really long time. You know those funny stories of kids who take all the kitchen saman and they start doing stuff? That was me. I remember like have this, you know, the chapati things that you put stuff on. They stand on that and then conduct an invisible orchestra, I think. So I think it's just bored, really, maybe.
But you actually visualized yourself and you played with yourself.
Yeah,
Okay.
I guess I just got that now while I was talking. So
Okay, good. Yeah, that often happens because we're talking about a lot of detail which is not in the biography, right? So it's there in your subconscious. So I'm not surprised at all that you're talking. So if you had this kind of awakening within you, the subconscious in you driving you towards cinema, why the hell did you do automobile engineering, and why the hell did you do masters in HF, human factors and all that?
Yeah, I think at that time, after my 12th, I did want to do my visual communication. My parents were, of course, little suspect, and I must say, I didn't really fight really hard to say, no, I really wanted to do Viscom. I was like, all right, cool, just figure it out. So once I joined automobile engineering, the truth is I wasn't a bad student, so I knew I could manage. So it was just like getting through college was the thing. So the hack there was to be able to just like read scripts, and at that time I was working Masquerade and all that. So just like read scripts during class, just do that, and then just basically do decently well enough in college and get past that. So it didn't seem very stressful enough. Maybe I just blocked it in a certain place saying that, okay, just finish college, it's fine, it's not a big deal, just move on and then go to the next. It didn't seem overbearing. Of course, there were times when it did, which happened probably later, but at that point it wasn't so difficult. Because I actually really wanted to be a doctor at one point, and I really wanted to...
Really?
Yeah. But I would be a terrible doctor then. Those people would have forgotten.
Do you think you would be a good engineer or
No, terrible engineer.
Okay.
Human factors engineer, maybe. Again, it's some human component to it. But just the drill of a machine just did not work for me.
So there you are. I think 80% of our country, when we step out of 12th standard, it makes it beeline to engineering. And like we were discussing last time, there was some statistic that I pulled up from the internet which said that a shocking 77% of the engineers, or 87%, I don't remember now, a shocking percentage of engineers hate their jobs. And so that's, thank God for people like Mathi, and of course Niladri, Niladri is, the dawn of it, the man who jumped out, right? But Mathi went through it and then decided, okay, this I'll make a terrible engineer, so this is step out. But just for the audience, before I go back to Niladri, just for the audience, I want you to demystify your masters. What is human factors? Okay. From a customer point of view, from a user point of view, and why did you take up that line?
So automobile engineering, honestly, it was the only thing I could get because my marks weren't great or anything, so it's the only engineering degree in a decent college, so just took that. Also, it sounded kind of cool at the time. Then, right after which, I was trying to find what I was interested in. So I remember that night, I just searched for all the courses I liked. and this included human psychology, biology, which is biomechanics in this respect. There was even management as well. So I just Googled all of these things, and one of the courses that came up was human factors. Then I went deeper and started looking at what it meant. So human factors engineering is a need that developed during the World War I precisely, or II, actually, I don't remember exactly, but yeah. So when, all these flights that go around and, bombing places, they obviously have so many dials, right? So the immediate solution that an engineer will give is, let's give them more dials, let's engineer it better. But human factors engineers came in and they said, let's optimize it for the human performance. So meaning, if I'm scanning from left to right, let's keep a lot of the dials on the left. If I am going to be always reaching out to something, let's keep that closer. So human factors engineering pretty much puts the human at the center of whatever you're making. It's not dictated by the system, but dictated by the person. So that's where it stemmed, and in the US especially, it's got a lot of value because it's primarily because you can sue anybody for anything. So if you have good human factors engineering in your product, likely that you won't be sued. So I really took to it because it was more human thing. I thought I'd do my master's in control displays. These heads-up displays were becoming popular then, more around the softer aspects of transportation. But of course, that didn't work out very well.
What connects you? Do you see a connection at all between your passion for theatre and the entertainment space and human factors?
Yes.
Is there a dot that connects?
People. Like I'm very curious. I think it was just very curious in general. So I'm always like Googling, looking, whatever. So I'm very curious about people, where they're coming from, why are they the way they are. So I think those are thoughts that are always there. And yeah, theatre is like an amazing tool to explore yourself and throw out questions that you have.
And do you enjoy your human factors work that you were doing?
Yes, I did. I must say I did. And that's the reason that I stuck on for a long time. I enjoy certain parts of the law. There's a lot of ethnography involved, so I really enjoyed that when you are able to understand people and communities outside of your own. So, and how they use technology. So just a fun, quick story in that respect. So I was doing this project in South Africa, and this is my first interview right there. And we're studying ATMs and how people behave near ATMs. The guy just casually says, just 3 weeks ago, this group of people came in and they took what, used grappling, mounted grappling, they just put it onto the ATM and then drove away with it. Alright? So then we were trying to build a system there to make people feel safe around banking. And I'm like, this is like going to be really uphill task. But to hear these stories from people who are from different cultures and how they feel about security, so casual about it, things like this happen. It's really intriguing, right? So you start really wanting to know more about these cultures, where they're coming from. And I think that was probably an exciting part of the job.
So what I'm drawing from your story so far is that I think at the core of it, you love human behavior, right? And what theatre does is allows you emotional expression of that behavior. And what human factors does is allows you a technological expression of that behavior. Right?
Yeah.
So I think at the core is somewhere people. Yeah. So what we can pick up so far from Mathi's story is that, you don't have to have complete clarity. You don't have to have everything edged out. You can stumble your way through, if I can use that word. You can experiment your way through. And we'll come back to how the clarity emerges in Mathi's life in a little bit, but let's go back to Niladri here. Niladri, my big question to you. So, disclaimer please. My personal views on religion and God are not coming in here, okay? And I don't wish that any of you take it that way. It's an individual's belief system. And to me, the people that we're going to talk about, Shirdi Sai Baba, we're going to talk about that. To me personally, he taught me the power of faith and patience. And his life taught me that. So I'm asking this question more from that point of view. And so with that disclaimer recorded, we'll proceed. So tell us about that big Sai Baba moment that happened. Where were you? Your sister gave you this charm. And you say like magically life changed. And when you look back at that time, how do you want to describe that moment in your life?
Well, I don't know how to describe it. I mean, it just happened. See, whenever people used to call my residence and I used to run to pick up the phone, they used to say, am I speaking with Mrs. Bose? And that used to really get me irritated because...
As in when you took the phone?
When I took the phone, I'd say hello, and they'd say...
You're kidding us?
Is it Mrs. Bose? So I used to get damn cheesed off, like, dude, I'm a guy, don't call me Mrs. So that was my, in the very beginning. Now, after all my failures and losing out on engineering, I think it was one of my elder sister who came and said, you know what, you can keep this. I don't want to, give it back to the temple, and you can wear it, still wear it over here, and see how it goes for you. And I asked her, who's this person? So she said, this is Sai Baba, but it's not the other Sai Baba, which is the Puttaparthi Sai Baba. So I, without a doubt, I just put it around my neck, and I just let it be. And I don't know what happened. I got this job. My voice changed from Mrs. Bose to Niladri. I'm seeing her so long. I guess the journey began, and I'm still part of that journey. And for me, it's he's given me too many chances, and I don't, I feel blessed, and sometimes I feel I don't deserve it, because how often do you drop out of college, get a chance to work with an Emmy award-winning cinematographer, then, you get your, finding with your voice, you become a radio presenter, you talk to the city, and radio gave me much more than just talking to the city. It gave me doing voices, for commercials, ads, movies. So I think it's just been on, and whenever there's been an obstacle, I've done one thing. I don't want to stress about it. I do stress at home. I'm a human. I stress out. But at some point of time, I just leave it to him, because I think if he's made me, this is his problem. It's not my problem. So you got to sort this out. Just like if my son is in trouble and he comes to me and he says, dude, sort it out, I got to sort it out. So I'm a son in front of him, I'm a servant in front of him, and I just feel that I just leave all my troubles and worries to him. A bit I leave on my wife also, but mostly on Shivji, sorry.
Fantastic. I love that answer, for a simple reason. Osho says that it's all about let go. He says live in a let go. What have you done for you to claim control of your life? You were born without your asking, and you are living this life, this experience, without your, you think you're controlling it because of your education and your rational thinking, but Osho says, all that is bunkum, throw it out of the window, just be in a let go, and life will flow. So I'm picking that up, and I think the common thread, if we go back to, on Sunday, we'll probably do a screening of all the Bliss Catcher conversations we've had and pick up the nuggets. I think one common thread, and Vani will agree with me, and anybody who's a regular will agree with me, I think the common thread among Bliss Catchers is that they just have to be in that state of let go, and things will happen. So it was meant to be that you had this voice, and that you would not be Mrs. Bose forever, and that you would be the Niladri Bose, okay? So so I can see a great sense of gratitude and a great sense of let go, right? So in this time that you finished with working with Alphonse Roy and his team, what made you make that? Because if you had not gone to Melbourne, if you had not done the course in radio and media, would you be where you are today? You wouldn't be. So what took you there? Why Melbourne? And why radio and media?
Back in 94, 95, I was just the 12th pass. So, because I dropped out of engineering. And I was shooting with Alphonse, which was in the north of Bengal, and we were tracking elephants who were raiding the villages. So we had a machan, we were put up on a tree, and we had to be on that tree for days to come till we got our shot of the elephant coming and raiding the village. So it was one of those nights when Alphonse sat and he told me, you've been working with me. There's one more project. We're going to be doing a film for Jigme Singh Wangchuk of Bhutan, and it's on this clouded leopard, which has never been documented. Would you like to be part of it? It's going to take 2 years. We're going to trek through Manas. It's going to be a lot of things, but it'll be a great experience. And he also gave me another word of advice. He said, you've been working so long, why don't you go put this down in writing also? So I said, if I'm going to take the Bhutan project, it's going to further delay what I want to do, which is I also wanted to put down writing. I wanted to go to a college where I'm not told about fluid mechanics and engineering drawing. I want to be told about, this is the way to do a performance, or this is the way to do a screenplay, or do your radio, or this thing. So I chose Melbourne, Australia, to be very honest, because I had to do, it would be something else if I had to go to US. Melbourne was giving us the right sort of degree, I would say, for me to actually go and quickly finish something, because I had lost out on 3 years because of the decision I made of dropping out of engineering. So I had to quickly make that time up, and I think Australia was the best bet then. So I landed there, and I started off, I took a loan from Caroline, because, and I went there.
That must have been a very bold decision back then to take a loan for an overseas degree.
Yeah, and my mom said, you better finish this one, because you can't just keep going and doing this, going to the jungle, and then say, Mom, I'm going. I said, no, this is it. I'm going to do this. So I went there, got my studies done, and I stumbled upon a particular subject, which was radio. And the guys over there said, hey man, you have an okay voice, why don't you do radio? I said, but in India there was no radio. The only radio that I heard when I was a kid was Amin Sahni's Sivaka Gitmana. But I still did it, and I came back to India, and I took a job with NDTV. Barkadar had joined a week before, and I joined a week later. And I joined as a cameraman, and I just got married also in the midst of that, and I took a job in NDTV, and I went, and I stayed in that television station for I think 2 days before I said, I'm going to quit. The same thing came to me, and I said, no, this is not happening, because they give you a camera, there's a news reader, lights are all sorted out, there is no work that you do. You just switch it on and you just stand there. It wasn't exciting for me, because I was so used to being chased by elephants, or chasing an elephant or a bison, or climbing a tree and shooting the Malabar monkey. I just could not shoot humans. It was very difficult. And when we were doing wildlife, you always had one take. The elephants would come, they would parade, you shoot it. If you got it, great. If you don't, no. But shooting humans was much more difficult, because they would ask for fruit juice, such a so I said, you know what? That's not what I want to do. I'm going to go back to Chennai and figure it out, because now I have something in my hand,
so
which is
the second time bold decision. Right?
Yes,
second time in your life.
Yes, absolutely.
What did your mom have to say this time?
The mom said, you're back. So I said, yeah, Mom, but don't worry, it's not like that back. It's back for good, in a good way. And then one of my friends said, there's this channel called, belongs to the Times of India. It's called Times FM, which later became Radio Mirchi. 96, 97, and said, would you like to audition? So I went there, I spoke some rubbish. I don't know what I spoke, but it was just plain rubbish. And I got a call back in the evening saying, would you like to be a radio presenter, a radio jockey? So I said, what should I do? He said, get your music, come into this place and play out the music. So I went into this AC room, there was my music, my Led Zeppelin, my Leonard Skinner, my Spyro Gyras and everything. And I just said, wow, I'm not shooting anybody, I'm not running anybody and running behind anybody. This was music, and there was someone talking to me from the other side, a faceless person, which later I started to understand that's your listener. That's where you get your unconditional love. They like you for not knowing you, because they've never seen you. Today in social media, you have all the radio presenters making videos and going out and doing their stuff. But in our time, we didn't have Facebook, we didn't have anything. A CD was about 350 rupees to paste, and my salary at All India Radio was about 125 rupees per show, which was again a drop from what I was getting at NDTV or what I was doing with Alphonse. But I suddenly felt something in me which told me that the whole day, you listen to people tell you to do this, tell you to do that, but this is your time where you put the fader up and you speak to the city of Chennai, or whichever city that you can.
And you loved it.
I just loved it. I didn't look back, and I started getting these letters, Madhi, these postcards and inland letters, and which said, we love you and we like you and this and that. I was just amazed. Who are these people who want to spend time listening to me, But it just happened.
And that just kept you going.
That still keeps me going.
Beautiful. I think, look at the word you used. Look at the word you used. Thank you so much. The word you used is unconditional love. What do we live as for human beings, as human beings, what did we live for? And I think where you can lose yourself and where you can get that unconditional love is where we all need to be. But we are somewhere stuck between an inability to lose ourselves and inability to get that unconditional love, and that's why we sometimes lead very, very tormented lives. So beautiful, I think, beautiful story there. I want to come back to your entrepreneurial journey very quickly, because to be a radio jockey is one thing, but to be an entrepreneur is another thing, and we'll come to that. But let's go to Mathi. And Mathi, my big question for you is to continue our conversation. The job that you had with Human Factors, the company, and the love you had for theatre and acting, how did you initially manage the two? What kind of a toll did it take on you? Did it make you extremely unhappy to go back to work and do your work? And did it give you a lot of joy to be doing theatre and doing stuff there? How did you manage that and stretch it for so long? How many years did you actually work?
I think, at least 7-8 years actually. Yeah.
And when did you finally quit?
Just last May, I think. Actually, no, I still did a project in February, so I think that is probably it. Okay. But I still may do it because it's fun.
So why were you going through a kind of inability to choose between what gives you joy and what makes you money? Was that the toss-up?
True. I mean, it was the fact that I had a really good, well-paying job, which I didn't hate. I really liked what it gave, and somewhere I assumed that life can be 200%. Like I just came across that quote somewhere, and somewhere I just had a feeling, you know what? Maybe if I sleep less, maybe if I spend more time, maybe I'll be able to do both. And let's just see how far this goes. And I really think that took a toll, because I think I pushed that way beyond what I felt humanly I could have pushed. So that was really tough.
So what kind of instances can you share with us of leading that kind of a life, trying to lead this dual life?
So there are funny moments. So for example, so early on, this is in 2010-11, we had a show, finished a play together, and we were trying to innovate. We were trying to take blogs and make them into plays. So we created this show. I was producing and directing it and acting it because for the want of actors. And I remember I was playing the part of a terrorist. And I finished the show, and I was leaving for JFK for a consulting assignment the same day, that night. So finished the show in makeup, just ran to the airport. All right. I was very the guy at the immigration counter looks at me and says, "Why do you have makeup on, sir?" And I'm like, "Oh no, I was playing a part of a terror." I said, "You probably shouldn't finish that sentence." So that is a funny example, but yes, that's tiring.
On the more serious side, did you have like physical issues like fatigue?
Yeah, heavily, because I
turmoil.
think the major problem is the shift of mind space, because you're in a very polished, very corporate sort of atmosphere for a few minutes, like this thing, and within seconds I'm still coordinating rehearsals or doing something. So moving between a creative space and a formal space, your mind just gives up sometimes, but it's fun. Like I kind of maybe enjoyed that rush for a really long time. Physically took a toll in the sense that yes, I've not been able to gain weight in years. Like it's just not happening.
You want to gain weight?
Yeah,
Can we swap places?
So that, of course, even personal relationships.
How important was I know money is important for everyone, but was keeping a steady revenue stream through your like a regular job, salaried job, was that a criteria for keeping the job?
True. I think it's because two things. One, yes, I felt money was a little important for me to be creative constantly. You need a little bit of money. Otherwise, what happens is that you're so busy thinking about that the entire time. So I think it's very important that you feel confident about what you're making. Otherwise, you're just going to feel like you feel sorry for yourself and all that. And I don't like that feeling. So I said, no, just going to brave it and figure that out. That's probably the major reason. There was one more reason which just completely slipped back. When I comes back, I will.
Okay. So my related question is, so what changed between like 3 years ago and let's say this February for you to actually say, okay, so this is it. Now let me do a full-time, actor, producer, director, entertainment industry, professional plunge. Why don't I take that plunge? What drove that plunge?
Revenue streams are working. I guess that's the major reason. Because Odyssey pushed it really a lot. Also personal clarity in terms of what I want from each of these spaces. Because when you're starting out, and like there are no real mentors really in this space because it's digital, it's theatre. Like everybody, like that's what I love about Chennai is that, like I don't understand how this city like still produces so many amazing people, right? If you really think about it, the people that is produced are just world class. How is it in this city that people are just like so crazy? I want to do something, I want to create something. There's something amazing about that. And I think, yeah, somewhere all those inspirations sort of keep telling you that maybe it's worth just like going on. And if someone like, you know, we put this in the web series that we just produced recently, which is basically saying that, you know, in a city where jingle makers can become Oscar winners and bus conductors become superstars, you feel like anything is possible. Because you're brought up in that atmosphere, you're thinking that, hey, yeah, like A.R. Rahman lives right here, he won an Oscar, you can too. Like everybody thinks that.
So it's a very inspiring environment.
Yeah.
It's a very inspiring environment. So I'm going to come back to you in to talk to kind of ask one more question. I'm just thinking if I should ask it. No, I think I'll wait. But the point here is a very interesting point, and I in case you missed it, let me kind of reiterate it. For the creative journey, you need money, and I think there are two schools of thought here. One that is the uncompromising school of thought that will want to stick out with the creative journey without the money and making no compromises. And there is the fine balance, and I see more of the new generation of people trying to do that fine balance, the tightrope walk between you know, keeping a job, having it pay for your creative pursuit, and moving back and forth till you come to the time like he did in February. So I think there is a model there worth looking at. There are others that we have had on the show that have talked about this as well. So that's very, very, you know, thanks for sharing that with me. So now I'm going to actually talk a little bit about nuts and bolts with both of you. So these questions are common, but I'll first go with Niladri, and then you know, the plunge from being a radio jockey, which is a salaried job with a channel, to a Copy Honest Entertainment, your company, becoming a kind of at two levels a very you know, a very what shall I say, very well connected network of you know, clients using your services for voiceovers, for ad jingles, and, you know, studio, running your own studio. That's on one side, and the other side, mentoring young talent. I think every single young radio jockey in the city is mentored by you know, Niladri in some way. You know, he writes a column regularly on in the Indian Express Indulge, the New Indian Express Indulge, and every time I read it, I'm just thinking, wow, you know, he knows so many people. So this entrepreneurial journey is not easy, right? I mean, there are cash flows to be met, there are businesses to be got, and there is clients have to pay up, and you know, doesn't that kill or sap you of your creative juices at any time?
Well, I'm very happy to have my wife by my side, because I mean, to be very honest, this is one part that she handles. Because I'm just there to do my voice and I go, but she's the one who's always you know, making that voice happen, following it up, whether it's a corporate film, whether it's a trailer in Kodambakkam that I have to go and do. I mean, so I think that pressure is taken off me by her. But other than that, with regards to mentoring radio presenters, what I learned in Melbourne is what I've tried to regionalize and bring it to Chennai or whichever city I'm living in. And I just felt that I had nobody to teach me, I had nobody to guide me, I had no one to tell me that this is the right thing to say or this is not the right thing to say. And I've made mistakes on air. I have, and it was very, what to say, insensitive of me. I just thought at that time it was very funny, because it was a joke, and it's and this is not against and you know, the visually challenged, but you were young. You're 24 at that time, 23, 24. You think, you know, that this is it. And I cracked a joke on Stevie Wonder, And the next day, I had the Blind Association come to the Times of India and go full bust on me. And I suddenly realized, oh my God, I mean, this is how close you are to the people. The proximity of radio is immense. You can, you can't carry your television around, but you can carry your radio, and that's how fast it reaches those people. I went back one day and I apologized, and I never ever I don't make any Sanda Manda jokes. I just don't go there. And I feel that was one mistake I made, I would say, in the last 20 years of radio.
So you're kind of paying it forward in terms of you were not mentored, so you didn't get that kind of benefit.
Yes,
but you're able to do it.
Absolutely. And as Mati says, that some extraordinary humans live in the city, and I can speak with regards to my fraternity, which is radio, and they're there. They've got the bullets, they've got the right gun, but someone got to tell them how to shoot it. And if I was taught that in Melbourne, and if I could regionalize it and bring it to this public, I think it would benefit, and inshallah it has, with a lot of radio jockeys who are on air today in Chennai and maybe in other cities.
Fantastic, fantastic. You talked about dealing with your insecurities or your problem situations and leaving it to Shirdi Baba, right? That's your way of dealing with the challenges of being an entrepreneur, or challenges of being a professional faced with everyday work situations and challenges.
Right.
I want to move a little bit to Shivali, the lady behind the Niladri Bose, okay? And this question is for you, so I'm going to pass you my mic if you guys can't get a mic. Yeah, there is a mic? Yeah, thank you. Odyssey team, Odyssey is always well prepared. Thank you so much. So Shivali, how do you deal with insecurities of having to run a business alongside a very, very, very famous, celebrated, creative person like Niladri?
I think handling him is more difficult. But handling all this, I think it's just optimism and knowing that tomorrow is going to be better.
The optimism and tomorrow is going to be better.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, because when you're an entrepreneur or when you're doing, say, freelancing jobs, you really don't know what's happening next and next and next, right? So there's that, like a job gives you a check at the beginning of the month, that doesn't work for us. But there's always a thing, it will happen, and I think that's what works for both of us in that sense. Yeah, I am more of a saver, so yeah, in that sense.
What do you mean?
Yeah. so there's seldom a time that he ever knows what the number in the bank balance is, because then I have a list coming up saying, you think I can probably invest in this and that. So that, yeah, in that sense, I'm very secretive about everything with him as well. So we keep it like that, and he seldom asks.
So that's a beautiful, I think, the point is that if you have a good companion, great if it's a spouse, but if you have a good companion to back you, I think Kavitalya Krishnan, I saw him somewhere here, he's just left. So he used to say, when he was a Bliss Catcher on our show, he talked about how and why it is very important to have that circle of influence that's stroking you positively along. So he would say that I would never go and talk to anybody that didn't believe in me. So that's a very convenient shut-off, right? Then you're not that he didn't want to hear cynics, but it was that was not needed at that time. And what he needed to see was encouragement, and I can see that oozing from Shivali, okay? In her own candid, in her own Shivali style, right? Fantastic, thank you for that. Mati, do you have insecurities? You're still young on this no steady income journey, okay? You're still fresh. What, 6 months now, right?
Actually, yeah, lastly, so yeah, about a year.
About a year and a half. So how do you feel insecure sometimes? You got so many productions going. I see you doing many things, and then you have this new web series started. Everything as a producer requires money, right? Apart from the creative juice. So how do you deal with your insecurities?
I actually don't. I think I just come to the conclusion that I just decided to keep going. But like, I guess there's that breaking point which you don't want to touch. And I think as long as you know that point, you can just keep pushing, I think. So I guess as a mechanism to deal with it, I really haven't figured. I maybe, yeah. So rationalize maybe a lot. Just watch what I just consume a lot. So not, I guess, like if you're thinking, if you're worried about revenue, just watch a billion YouTube videos about that, or talk to people who have been in that situation, and then just peer learning, which just ties back to what Niladri was saying, that is the city, because it has so many people who are constantly trying to make it great, and I really like, that's the thing about it, right? And I don't mean this to flatter Niladri, of course, but I know that growing up, if you thought about radio, you would know that there was this person called Niladri who had this voice, who was doing something interesting, something different. Of course, now I can articulate what was different, but I knew that there was something different about that person. And there are these few people, right, who give back to the community at continuously, and I think that makes a huge difference in helping everybody deal with how they're going to make their little endeavor successful. Even though we may work in opposite spectrums, of not opposite really, but parallel spectrums, it still, I'm sure that the influence of, let's say, what Niladri has done may have influenced the lead cast actor of Raghunathan, who is RJ himself, who also dropped out of college, and the show is about him. So I'm sure there's some patterns in this entire atmosphere, right? So which I find quite fascinating.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. I think there are only patterns. There are no methods. There are no mechanisms. You can only look at stories around you, and you can only pick up the little, strawberries from the top of the icing of the cake and take it to your own story and see, does it work for me? That's all you can do. And I think the way to deal with insecurity is to hold it up in your hand, literally. So there is a problem, there is a money problem, there is a health problem, there is a relationship problem. Hold it in your hand and understand what the value of holding it in your hand. Actually, there is no value. You'll find it's futile because you can't solve it. So you might as well set it aside and keep going with what you can do. So I like your answer, there is no mechanism. Fantastic. I want to go to Pooja here. Pooja is Mathi's friend, companion, and Pooja is a very, very successful actor. We've seen one film of yours and we loved your role. In fact, that's the only part of the film that I loved. Very honest, it's by a very celebrated filmmaker. It's called Iraivi, and it was a very, very much talked about film because the film kind of let us down on other parts, but your role and the character you played there was very, very powerful. So how does it help for you to be in the same space, to understand your companion, and you've taken time to be with us today, thank you. So how does it work when you are in the same space? Is it easy, is it difficult? And do you have a sense of insecurity when you look at the fact that both of you are in a creative space where there is chances of a steady flow are not predictable?
Yeah.
Okay, so can you give it a mic?
So I won't lie about this. A lot of people are definitely they come up to you and say it usually wouldn't work out when two people are in the same industry and stuff like that. But I honestly feel extremely lucky, and I believe that all the little bit of success that I'm tasting right now is because of all the theatre that I've done, and most part of it is through Straight Factory. So I have never felt that insecurity, or I felt extremely lucky actually, extremely lucky, because if there's something I don't understand, my go-to person is right there. And I think it works the other way around as well, so there's always a balance.
That's beautiful. The line I'm going to be picking up, and it'll stay with me for a long time, is that I don't see the insecurity, I'm very lucky. And I think it's a great attitude to have in life, and thank you Pooja for I kind of sprung this on you. I knew you were not, there's no prep for our session, so people who are there and talking to us, thank you so much. So beautiful answer there, that you just count your blessings and you keep moving on, and there are going to be no methods and mechanisms to deal with this. So as long as as the quote a film line which I love a lot, so as long as this part of you is answering you on what you love doing, keep going, and the doors will open. That's the message I'm getting from both the stories. We are at that time on our show where we can take questions from the audience, and I'm going to allow on my clock exactly 12 minutes of questioning. Okay, And so please keep your questions as questions. Yes, MKC will take the first question, and not as observations, and keep them short so we can have productive answers.
Thank you guys. You seem to have put in so much of experience, but still you look like college students. You also, thanks to the wives who are taking care of you. You guys don't look more than 25. Yeah? And he talks about earning 120 rupees a day. So he speaks like me of my age, but you don't look that. I want to, my pick from both of you guys is about one dropping out engineering and the second one doing engineering without liking it. I'm asking you this question in the capacity of a faculty. When would both of you guys put up a show for the South Indian parental population to take children away from the obsessive engineering thought process?
It's an MKC moment. MKC is himself a Bliss Catcher in his own way, an uncommon leader, but for parents.
So, in fact, only this show that we just produced called Black Sheep is pretty much about that. So, don't want to talk about the show, but the intent. I think a lot of what communication intent should do is to be able to create dialogue, right? And it should be in the space that people can understand it. I think our representations of all of these things have been very poor, to be brutally honest. We show a dropout as someone who's just like huge rebel who just like drops out and then some magic card falls and he becomes a millionaire. It's not that at all. And because of these false images, like you can't blame parents for thinking that their kids are not in safe hands as well. So a lot of the kids who come for our workshops or whatever, they're like, I want to drop out, whatever. They say, taking calculated risks are important, which is probably the reason that I stuck on, because I felt I would be able to at least continue. I didn't dislike it, I'll still be able to continue. But tying that back up, yes, we need our entertainment, all of the shows to represent both sides of the story. Like, what do parents feel? What do kids feel? And there has to be common media that is consumed that enables that kind of dialogue. Like a forum like this is an example of that, given that there are people of different ages, where we go back and say, okay, you thought that, I thought this, okay, so maybe there's this. Right now it's so siloed, right? Our consumptions are like, okay, 18 to 23, 23 to 26. That's how people are approaching entertainment, but essentially we're all just the same, with the same insecurities, same problems, same issues. So that's what I would.
Fantastic. You have a point?
Yeah, I think parents should stop. I mean, I don't know whether it's still happening. I'm also a parent, and I can speak for myself. They should stop pushing their desires, what they wanted to do, onto their children. Because that child is coming with a different set of karma, that child is coming with a different set of skill set. When my son is in the 12th, he's right here, and as much as, like a cliched Indian parent, I might have thought that, would you like to do science, would you like to do this? I just told and my wife also, we said, do whatever you want. If math is a problem with you, delete it from your thing, but remember, you will be also cutting off options. I think it's a duty for every parent today to make the child aware, but not force their desire, onto them, like saying, you know what, I wanted to be an engineer, so now you got to go and study engineering. I'm never going to do that, because I think in some which way that was done to me, and it did not work out. And my son has got my genes. I'm sure it's not going to work out with him.
I'll come to you, Ati. Just one thought, story that I picked up around the Olympics, and one of India's successful medal winners, Sakshi Malik. I read a story which talked about how her mother, Sudesh, took her to the stadium when she was a young girl and introduced her to athletics, to gymnastics, to basketball, to volleyball, and wrestling. And when she saw wrestling, she said, "Yahi karungi." This is what I will do. And the family tried to spend a lot of time trying to tell the child, don't get into this because it's a man's sport, and a woman can be completely, kind of physically overall during the journey to become a top-notch wrestler. And she stuck to her, her choice of doing wrestling. And Sudesh had the humility to tell the Times of India that I'm sorry I came in the way of my child. I'm glad my child prevailed, and I'm glad where she ended up. So I think the message is, can we stop interfering with the lives of our children and allow them the free space? I know that's Ati's favorite subject, so Ati, your question next.
See, let me put it like this, we put too many safety nets and we scare our kids into going the Glenn McGrath line and length way. Let me put in cricketing terms. No one likes a Sean Tate who goes for runs, gets his wicket, but goes 100 miles an hour and makes it more exciting. The 100 miles an hour Sean Tate type similarities are not accepted. See, there are quite many Sean Tates lurking around here in different fields, not just cricket. Forget sport. But these unconventional types who are exciting, they consider vagabond and taken negatively. That first thing, and keeping them from becoming a McGrath, because then you are making a hodgepodge mixture of both, which lacks the goodness of either a champion. Glenn McGrath is Glenn McGrath, Sean Tate is Sean Tate. Because they both were together, they could win the 2007 World Cup. That's why. Let them be independent. Don't combine them.
So Ati, so that was an observation. Thank you. Can we have questions, please? Any questions? Yeah, Ramesh. Yes, please pass the mic to Ramesh.
Can we have little clarity on the kind of mentoring that you used to do for the youngsters who want to take up into voice modulation and radio jockey and stuff like that? Can you be a little more
elaborate?
Please.
Sure. See, radio is it's a myth that you need to have a voice. If you have a voice, it's a bonus, and that's where my workshop started from, and that's how I could invite and entertain a lot of people who not necessarily had a baritone or a very sexy voice when it comes to being a woman. So my training was about bringing out their personality. My training was about making them lose their inhibitions. My training was to make sure that they don't feel like a mental patient inside a room with a mic and while speaking to themselves. Because when you enter a radio station, sir, you might think we all radio jockeys are all, little cuckoo in the head. Because you see all of us sitting in rooms and talking and smiling all by ourselves. It's not very normal when when someone else does it. So my whole training was to make sure that they don't feel that way, to get rid of your inhibitions, to find out if you don't have a voice, no problem. You have a personality, let's bring that personality out. Sachin Tendulkar doesn't have a voice, but his personality speaks, for everybody will listen if he's on the radio or wherever he is. So that was something that we focused on, obviously with regards to voice modulation, it's to find out what range you have, how deep you can go or how high you can do. If you can do an Amitabh Bachchan, can you do a Sachin Tendulkar imitation? So it's like that. So we trained our students to find the range. For example, and we don't have the probably the right mic system, but voice range is something like, if I have to do an Amitabh Bachchan, and it's not acoustically right, but that would be the tonality. If I have to do a Sachin, it will be, actually, I am so happy to be here. So that is your voice range. So if you can know your voice range, then you can also tell that you also have that voice range. Let's see what your voice range is. Not all of us are, know the technique of getting that out, but once you get it out, you have a radio presenter, a personality right there in front of you.
Fantastic.
Well, in terms of question B, has the radio jockey field come into state? Has it matured fair enough in India?
In India, I'll be very honest, Madhi's also traveled abroad and extensively. We are 25 years behind international radio because we follow a diktat. There's a protocol. We can't say this, we can't do that, we have to play this music. So until all of that disappears, we'd be probably on par where we could speak about controversial topics, where we can, have adult content on radio. And I'm not saying anything derogatory, but just topics which are for adults. We don't have all that. Though that's totally missing. It's a very watertight environment. You have 45 seconds to go make an impact. Talk about the artist, crack a joke, give a mug out or a cap out, and make a listener love you. All that in 45 seconds. So I think it's another 10 or 15 years till we actually can say that yes, we are on par with international radio, but with the way we're very sensitive people as Indians. I mean, that has to, slowly disappear for us to be on par.
Thank you. We'll take the last question from a lady, Geeta.
Niladri, this is for you. How do you take care of this rich baritone that helped you to change from Mrs. Bose to Niladri? And have you tried to handle singing?
I try to sing, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, I don't know if I sing. My wife says I pray like a donkey. So I stayed away. She's been my biggest critic and my mother has been my biggest fan. So I listen to my critic now because my biggest fan is missing. But taking care of my voice, to be very honest, I think 2 cold beers on a weekend just does it. I'm just kidding. But no, I think a lot of people do a lot of riyaz with their voice, drink a lot of rasam, don't do this, don't do that. But I don't think it really makes a difference. SPB sir has an ice cream before he records this song. So it really doesn't matter. Don't push your throat. I mean, it's after all a vocal cord. If it has to work 2 hours, make it work 2 hours. Don't make it work 5 hours. And I think that way you'll be taking care of it.
Beautiful. Very practical answer there, and very similar to what SPB told Mani and me also. And he said it's not your creation. So whatever has created it will take care of it. So why are you getting into the picture? So again, don't come in the way of life. Beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, time for the quiz questions. We are inching towards our close. So today we have 3 questions. We have 1 question each coming up from Mathi and Niladri, and there is a third Madras Week special question. So we have 3 questions and 3 gifts to be won in the audience. And we are not giving you mugs this time because this is Madras Week special. So you're going to get nice tote bags, and these bags have a nice picture of my book. So with all love from Odyssey, Parandaman and crew, nice. And from all of us. So that's what you will be getting. So Mathi, will you have your first question for the audience?
Okay, so I figured theatre and film are both interesting, so I thought the intersection of that would be a good question. Which Bollywood filmmaker is very famous for remaking Shakespeare films? Shakespeare into film.
Vishal Bharadwaj.
Vishal Bharadwaj, is that right? Okay, I was going in the direction of Shashi Kapoor for some reason. Okay, so Shweta was lifting her hand. Okay, we got the answer there. So, ma'am, I forgot your name. Usha, right. So, Mathi, your gift is the tote bag to Usha there. Thank you, Usha. Sorry, Shweta. Sorry, we didn't notice your hand, but since the answer came out there, we gave it there. Yeah. Niladri, your question for the audience.
All right, you want a tough one or you want an easy one?
Tough one.
A tough one. All right. In the 80s, we sent a man into space. His name was Rakesh Sharma. He was the only Indian astronaut. 2 other astronauts were in that Soyuz T-10. Would you be able to name just one of those?
Rajiv Malhotra.
No, there was only one Indian and there were 2 Russians. The Indian was Rakesh Sharma, who named one of those Russian astronauts. I can give you an easy one also.
Yeah, we'll try the easy one now.
We'll try the easy one. Okay, the answer is Yuri Malyshev and Gennady Strakalov. I had that cutting from the Hindu newspaper in my scrapbook for years, that's how I know it. Alright, easy one comes up now. A Bollywood actor, a very famous Bollywood actor from the 60s, was also a radio jockey with Radio Ceylon. Which Bollywood actor are we talking about? He's got a son in the film industry now who's very famous.
Parikshit's father.
No ma'am, Amit Sayani, no sir.
No, Parikshit's father.
This was a
Sayani.
No ma'am, this is an actor who worked in Radio Ceylon. Before coming into the film industry, which actor are we talking about? I can give you one small hint. That is right, sir. That is right. Sunil Dutt is the right answer, sir. Well done.
Ram has also been a Bliss Catcher. He's the editor of Shruti. What is the answer? Sunil Dutt. What a privilege, Ram.
You speak Tamil?
Thank you, thank you. So the answer is Sunil Dutt. So can you say the question again and the answer? I think everyone...
There was a Bollywood film actor who was a radio jockey with Radio Ceylon before he joined the film industry. That actor was Sunil Dutt.
And his son Sanjay
Dutt, yeah.
Ceylon.
Radio Ceylon.
Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka.
Yes.
Yeah, Radio Ceylon.
And they had their transmitters of India also, so they used to beam out of here because Hindi music was big at that time.
Okay, so here is the third question, which is the Madras Week special question. And the question is, earlier this week, on the 23rd of August, there was a Padma Vibhushan sitting right here, and he's connected with me. I saw this hand go up. 1 second. Yeah, I saw this hand go up. Yeah. Yeah, can you give the answer?
Yeah, Viswanathan, he came for Sanyal's book launch.
Sanjeev Sanyal's book launch, which is the Ocean of Churn. Yes. Ocean of Churn. So, Paradaman, can you give away the... is the manager of Odyssey store. And Mandri, the regular Bliss catcher, gets the... I'm sorry, I saw his hand go up first. So thank you. So the answer is Viswanathan Anand, the Grandmaster, and Padma Vibhushan was right here to launch the book of Sanjeev Sanyal called Ocean of Churn. So fantastic conversing with both of you. I think the quiz questions went well. Not too many surprises there. So except the first one, the Amar Akbar Anthony one. You know, I just came from the left side and stopped you. No, but I have seen Amar Akbar Anthony probably just about 1 million times. You know, so for me, that man and his films, and probably tonight I'll go back and watch something on TV that will have him. You know? So I'm going to do a quick wrap, ladies and gentlemen, and what I'm picking up from these two stories, I think one is a story, I think MKC summed it up very beautifully. One is a story of dropping out, and the other is a story of staying on and yet trying what you love doing. And I think both these stories give me perspective on two fronts. One is that let go and go with the flow. And the other is understand what makes you tick and keep doing that as much as you can. And somewhere along the way, everything will fall in place. So I think it's a beautiful confluence of two perspectives. There is no right way or there is no wrong way. And I think both ways are very, very important. I'll do a quick wrap just to bring the evening to a close. You know, if you take a line and divide our lives, okay? I don't have a column mic, so I have to keep using my right hand. Take a line and divide our lives into two halves. One half is what the world wants of you, and the other half is what you want for yourself. And I think Mati represents that ability to have balance between the two for the longest time, right? And Niladri represents the clarity of not wanting to walk that tightrope at all and saying, I'm here, this is what I want to do. Now, many of us have this opportunity, and there is nothing wrong with having to live a life of earning a living, having to pay bills, having to raise a family, having to build a house, plan for retirement and health benefits and whatnot. There is nothing wrong with that life. Except the key question is it making you extremely happy or unhappy? If it is making you extremely happy, you don't have a problem with it. But if it's making you an unhappy soul, an incomplete soul, then you've got to look at that line. And many times you will not find that line as a line. It will actually be a grey band. And that grey band is where all our suffering comes from. That grey band is where all the unwanted rat race elements have crept in. And the unwanted rat race elements are, first of all, postponing what gives you joy. 2, playing to the earning a living gallery. 3, getting sucked into the rat race of time being mismanaged, of health being mismanaged, of trying to overspend than what you're earning. And all of this, therefore, causes enormous amount of unhappiness. So you've got to shrink that band again. You've got to make it a very straight line. this is what you have to do in the real world. You have to earn a living, but this is what you have to do in order to enjoy life, which is to be happy. And the number one and the only thing we need to do, the reason why we've been created, is to be happy. You know, I started with Rumi earlier on in the evening, so I'll end with Rumi again. Jalaluddin Rumi, the Persian poet, my favorite poet, and he said, there is a candle in your heart waiting to be kindled. There is a void in your soul waiting to be filled. You know it, don't you? He asks. So if you know it, then why don't you let yourself be drawn in the direction, in the stronger pull of doing what you love doing? So he says it's a no-brainer. You are feeling the void, so allow yourself to be drawn in the direction of what gives you joy. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I will end today's Bliss Catchers session. It has been amazing having you two wonderful gentlemen with us and sharing your stories. Every part of this session was learning and so much fun. I have your mugs for you, your Bliss Catcher mugs for you for coffee tomorrow. Next year, hopefully, we'll graduate to beer mugs. Okay? So, but for now, Parandaman, can I invite you on behalf of Odyssey to give away the mugs? Thank you. So, you're all free to stay back and interact with the guests. And of course, please don't leave. We need a customary selfie with you before
I just want to say a big thank you to Vani and AVIS for doing this. I just hope what we shared was worth listening. I have a new friend now in the form of Madhi, and hopefully we should collaborate in the future and do some great stuff. Thank you all for coming, spending time. I'm sure you have other things to do, but just being here with us makes a lot of difference, makes all the struggle that we've gone through worthwhile. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, Vani. Thank you, AVIS.
Thank you.
Signing up in Tamil for Madras.
Madras.